Are you finding that detergent is too expensive or that you're having allergic reactions to a lot of commercially available detergents? My husband and I found ourselves in that problem several years ago, and I started making our own. It's a paste format, and you can make it for approximately 10 cents a load. So as you can see, I'm just adding a little bit in tablespoonfuls to a very large load of laundry, and it's the perfect amount. This doesn't have any added scent or smells, and so it works really well for our family because we were having allergic reactions to other things. So for each large pot, you're going to use 2 bars of Fels naptha soap, which you can get generally at old-fashioned hardware stores. Sometimes they have them on Amazon, Walmart, places like that. You want 2 cups of washing soda. If you don't want to purchase washing soda or can't find it, there are some hacks online for putting baking soda in the oven. Just be careful about inhaling it, but check out some links online and there's some ways to do that. And then you want 2 cups of borax, and the brand that a lot of people use is 20 Mule Team, but other brands work just fine as well. I've used those. Whatever you can find is great for this particular recipe. Then you just want a gallon of water. You're going to be using 2 quarts at a time, so if you have a 2-quart pitcher, that's going to be perfect for this. And I usually make 3 to 4 large pots at a time just to kind of keep the process going, and it works out pretty well. So the first thing you want to do is grate the fels naptha bars, and this can be kind of a pain in the butt process, but as you're doing this, what you want to do is grab your bars and unwrap them. You're going to cut them in half. I'm using the attachment on my stand mixer, but you can use whatever you have available. You do want to use the finer side or attachment of whatever you do use, because the smaller these pieces are, the easier they're going to dissolve later in the process. So you want to have them be in a pretty small format. And sometimes it does go airborne, so I grab one of the old COVID masks and put them on just to keep myself from inhaling it as this process goes on, because sometimes it tends to go into the air. So the older the soap is, you'll notice that the soap on the right is darker colored and it's crumbling more. The older the soap is, the more it's going to crumble, and that can work to your advantage a little bit, but just know that it's going to grate more smoothly. If it's a newer bar, it's just going to be chunkier and clunkier if it's an older bar. And I am grating it directly into the pot that I'm using. When you are finished with this, any of the parts of this that are dishwasher safe, you want to run it through the dishwasher, and the rest of it you want to clean very, very well. The main part of this is not dishwasher safe, but I do run the top part of it and the blades to the dishwasher, and then the other part of it I clean with really, really hot water. And those little bits that are at the bottom, sometimes you don't have to grate those. And you are going to have to rinse whatever you're washing very, very well, because this is soap, and so it's very difficult to get off. And then you just keep on that grating process. I have used a food processor for this quite often, and it works really well because it keeps things from going airborne a whole lot more. Since this time I have used the food processor more than stand mixer, but whatever you have will work, even if you're using a box grater. It'll take a while, but it'll work. So once you have all of your fels naptha grated into your pots, two bars go into each pot. You're going to add 2 quarts of water to each of those pots, so that you're going to be able to melt and start dissolving that soap. You want to turn your burner on low and keep a close eye on these pots. It boils over super, super easily, and it will go from barely looking like it's cooking to bubbles everywhere and overflowing onto your stove before you know it. And so don't turn your back on this. Don't multitask. Take your time. I mean, you're making enough detergent to use for quite a while. It's worth the time it takes. So while your water is heating though, you can measure 2 cups each of your washing soda and borax. And one of the easiest ways that I've had found to do this is to use just a regular solo cup, the 16-ounce solo cups, because then you can just pour it into the solo cup and that measures it for you. So you need 1 solo cup of washing soda and 1 solo cup of borax. You do want to stir this occasionally just to make sure it's not sticking, and just to kind of check and see whether or not your soap is melted. I have had this boil over on me a few times, and my main reason for not wanting to boil over is that I don't want to waste any of it, but I will say that your stove gets very, very clean after this process, because generally some of it does get on there. As you can see, this is boiling over a little bit. That's my most powerful burner right there, but the stove gets very clean after this process. This detergent works really well on almost anything. So after your soap is fully melted, you're going to add your washing soda and borax to each of the pots, and after you've added it, you want to stir it really well immediately. Just to make sure that it doesn't just instantly stick to the bottom of the pot. And then after that, you're just going to stir it occasionally, keeping that heat low so it doesn't boil over until you don't feel the grittiness on the bottom of the pot. And you will know exactly what I'm talking about if you end up doing this process. But you basically are looking for the borax and the washing soda to dissolve as well. Keep your heat on low. Once you have gotten your borax and washing soda completely dissolved and everything is feeling smooth and there's no grittiness, you're going to turn off your heat and then add 2 quarts of cold water to each of your pots. And then stir that up very well, making sure that everything is good and incorporated. After that, you're going to let your pot sit there until there's a hard disc on top of it. It takes about 4 to 6 hours. You want to see that there's some separation in there, and it'll be very, very clear that that separation has happened. You want it to be room temperature, almost there, so just fill this out of your pot just to make sure that it is almost there. If you do this process too early, the detergent will separate again, so you definitely want to wait until it is just about to that room temperature. You can let it sit longer than that 4 to 6 hours. It's just that you might end up needing to break up that hard disc at the top and cut into pieces before blending, because it gets very, very hard and it gets very, very tough to get the stick blender through. So then you're going to use a stick blender to blend up the mixture until it's consistent with no chunks. And this is a process I usually just kind of stab the stick blender down and it's going to make little discs and then pop those out. But you're basically looking to press through that hard layer with a stick blender and then go all the way through the bottom and to make sure that everything is very consistent throughout with no chunks. You're looking for one big homogeneous mixture that's very smooth. It's going to be about the same consistency as pudding by the time that you finish this, and it's going to look like vanilla pudding. But don't eat the forbidden pudding. This is not something that's edible. Just because we're using food analogies does not mean that you should eat this. So after that, you're going to scoop it into jars. I'm using a paper cup just because it means that I'm not going to have this getting into the ladle. But protein powder or collagen powder jars work really, really well for this. Just because it holds a good amount and you can usually get your tablespoon in there. But after you've used these for detergent, you shouldn't use them for any other food-related purposes after that fact. It'll harden after this process into a thicker paste overnight, which is the consistency that you saw in the video at the beginning that ends up being closer to like a mayonnaise type consistency than a pudding consistency. It'll hold its shape a little bit better. But I'm a teacher, and so what I end up doing is my general plan after I've gotten through all the Christmas stuff during Christmas break is that I will make enough detergent to last the whole year. It is just me and my husband, so we don't maybe do as much laundry as some families. So if you have a larger family, you might need to do this more often. But since we have been doing this, we haven't had any allergic reactions to our detergent. It smells amazing. It doesn't have any overbearing smells or anything like that. It just works really, really well for our family. For a small load, you're going to use about a heaping tablespoon and then 2 tablespoons for a larger load. And you kind of want to play around with things as you go. We have a regular top loading washing machine, so if you're using a high efficiency, you could probably just do 1 tablespoon for each load. A whole batch of this costs a little under $7, and each batch is going to do between 64 and 85 loads of laundry. So it really does cost a whole lot less than other things. It also stores in a lot less space than other laundry detergents do. It also is a really good spot treatment for grease stains and other stains. Just smear some on and then wash things whenever you get around to it, or spot treat right before you go in to the washing machine. Strangely, we've also found that it works really well for getting soap scum out of bathtubs. Smear it on there, let it sit for a little bit, and then scrub it off and it will come off pretty easily. Your pots that you've made your soap in, if they are like aluminum pots, they're going to be very, very shiny after this process. Once again, clean them very, very, very well, and you're going to be using lots and lots of hot water. I typically run them through the dishwasher when I'm finished just to make sure everything gets out of them. But thank you so much for joining us on Mixing with Mercs. Let us know if you try this process. It works great for our family, and we hope it works great for yours.